I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Dave Burd, co-creator and star of FX's Dave. You know what, Dave? About a year and a half ago, I got into this show when I saw this post from Damon Lindelof, who I really admire and respect, and he was just raving about your show. And I'm paraphrasing, but he was saying something like, "It's a picture perfectly balanced scale between silliness and profundity." And it's like a hip hop strange love, trippy and hilarious and beautiful. And I thought, oh well, I've got to check this out. I respect and admire what he has to say. And I was so blown away when I saw the first season. And then of course the second season, just you even made that even better. What does it mean to you, firstly, to hear feedback from your peers, from critics and from fans who actually get what you're trying to achieve with this show?
It means a lot. It's a relief, you put your heart and soul into it, and I'm still kind of like new to television. I've only been doing this for about 3 years. So it's a lot different than making a music video or a song. So, you have an idea of how you want your show to be, but really like you don't even know exactly until you see like the footage and how it all comes together. So for me, step one is like I have to satisfy myself. I have like very high standards that I get so unhappy if I don't meet. I think we meet them pretty often, and I feel like if I satisfy myself, then the others will, because my bar is so high, that others will probably like it too. So to me, it just feels like I'm doing the right thing when people say they like the show.
Yeah, and I think the key for Dave, the series, is to get the tone just right, because you're balancing some really outrageous and sometimes often quite absurd concepts with the heartfelt and the profound that make us feel something for this guy and for the world in which he operates. So do you find that the most challenging part of when you're creating and writing this show, to get this tone just right?
I think that isn't an unreasonable statement to make. Like in the writing process, yeah, I'm like a tone enforcer. There are certain things that like could be the funniest things in the world, but it's just like, for me, like my holy grail is realism. Like I just have to believe that something really could occur. Now, my life in general is pretty like kind of absurd to begin with in reality. And then it's not too unbelievable to make a particular moment like a little bit more heightened than maybe it would have happened. But it's like my holy grail is truth and honesty, and having that be ever present while like being emotionally like compelling, while being as truly funny as humanly possible, while like also like being a filmmaker. Like I don't think before I did this I ever like even considered myself a filmmaker, and now I feel like that's one of the first words I'd use to describe my professional life. So, and that very much is tonal based work. So tone is always top of mind over here. Like I think my writers get annoyed at the amount of times I say the word tone and slice of life.
Yeah, I totally understand that, because this show could not work if it's too crazy, and maybe if it's not funny or crazy enough.
Yeah.
And like, I really want to talk about Dave's journey in season two, given that, our season three will eventually grace us, which is going to be fantastic. In the second last episode, Enlightened Dave, I think that's probably the one episode that a lot of people love to talk about, because it was such a huge game changer for him. And there's a line, or there's a theme in that episode where it's about, don't change who you are. Stop worrying about being highbrow or lowbrow. Just be no brow and be yourself. And I love the line. It's so basic, acknowledging that, but acknowledging the basic mess, but is not so basic in itself. And that's the show. And I just think, how long have you wanted to kind of get to that point for Dave? Like, is this an intentional journey that we've been on for him, or is it something that occurred to you while you were creating season two?
I think there's a fair amount of intention behind it, just in terms of I'm really, in reality, like I've been working on an album for 7 years now, and I'm still working on it, and it's only getting better and better, by the way. I have no regrets on the amount of time I've spent, but it's like, boy, have I had years where I've just been like overthinking and like being like, well, I need to do this, I need to be this way. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like kind of the antithesis of art is like hyper analysis. And that's unfortunately the gift and curse of my brain, so to speak. So that's kind of so inherent in who I am as a person and who I am as an artist. So I kind of like just naturally intentionally wanted to like lead it there. But yeah, I mean, even that episode was like, I'm definitely the most proud of that episode of all 20 that I've made, because it is the furthest from like my lane, like my comfort zone. Like I know I can make an episode that's like this great. Like I've seen myself do it. Like this type of episode I've never done. And I don't know if it's going to look like a big swing and like you didn't quite do it right, or like, you know, because it's just I don't have like the experience and like the validation of knowing I've done it before, which is how it was in the beginning of the show in general, anyways. But in doing it and feeling like it like met my own personal standards so highly, it's and really like the core of it was I was myself the whole time. Like I wrote that episode from a very like observant perspective, and wasn't afraid to like put like things that were like weird thoughts that you might not want to reveal like in there. So I think if anything, it just told me like you can go with your gut no matter what the style of filmmaking is, as long as you're being true to yourself, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, for people who haven't seen it, Dave goes to super producer Rick Rubin's house. He ends up having these trippy hallucinations, like a dreamscape. And it features this creepy, bald, near naked version of yourself, I guess, representing your ego, or himself, I should say. And then you have this conversation with your ego, and it sparks this inner inspiration for Dave's creativity. What inspired the look and feel of that creepy alien looking guy that you had no eyebrows and no body hair and this kind of diaper on? It's kind of it's out there.
Yeah, I wish I could like, I don't even know. It's just like that's one of those things that just comes from like really like silly writers' room conversations where it's like, you know, and as initially conceived, actually, his whole flesh was supposed to be testicle skin. He was supposed to be made
Of course.
of balls. But just logistically, it was just too much. There was already enough makeup to like have to deal with that whole day. So we kind of just scaled it back, and I loved it. And the crazy thing is I realized like I didn't even know what I was going to look like. So it was like hard for me to like envision how to play it as an actor without even having any, like without knowing like what this person's going to appear like. So I kind of like played it by ear, which is really the theme of the episode almost, you know what I mean? To like not overthink it. Like me as an actor in reality had to like take the lesson of the episode and apply it to like the most important scene to play that character. And which is like kind of the first time I've ever played someone other than myself. And that was my favorite scene to film by far of anything I've ever done, because I just love turning into that thing.
Yeah, I think I've seen that episode like 4 times, and I always get something out of it. It's insane and in a really good way. Looking back throughout the season, episode 3, The Observer, is the bromance between Dave and record producer friend Benny Blanco, and that develops into something strange and intimate that I wasn't expecting. We see a side of Dave that we're probably not expecting, and I'm thinking physically.
Yeah.
But it's just awesome. It's just a ridiculously funny and actually really meaningful episode about privilege and sexuality. What were you aiming for with that one?
Well, again, truth is my sweet spot. So like I really am best friends with this guy, and we really do when we're alone like do things that are kind of like that would seem very bizarre, and like we like have this like very physical lovey-dovey like seemingly sexual relationship that's just like not sexual for us. Like we just like, and I just wanted to like understand like why like what's the sociological reason for why we're behaving this way. And like we talked about it in the writer's room, and we unpacked it. And it's like, it is a privileged thing to like, you know, like to like take a taboo thing that's like seemingly taboo in culture and play chicken with it because you really have nothing else to worry about. You know what I mean? And just like unpacking that and making it more than just like, you know, a broy, like whatever the hell it could be interpreted as. Like it had more like ironically observational traits to it that I really liked.
You know, yeah, it was actually a really freeing episode because there was the taboo aspect just vanished, and we were able to just kind of enjoy two people who just really like love each other in a really platonic way. And yeah, I just found it really interesting, really different. And it also reminded me of relationships that I've even had in my own life. Maybe not to that extreme, but it just, again, this is a show that is super funny, but it makes you think about stuff. And it makes you feel things that you're not expecting. And that's the best thing that you do as the creator. The other episode, I mean, they're all great, but episode 6 is, to me, honestly, Dave, a masterpiece. We follow this super compelling courtship between Dave and Doja Cat, of all people. I was crushed for Dave by the end, and I found it indescribably intimate and relevant for how we communicate these days. So what were you aiming for with that one?
You know, just like totally had like a 7-year window in my life of online dating, you know, where it's like that I was so busy that, and it's just like, where do you meet people? Like, I'm not gonna like go to a bar and like, I mean, I don't know. It just felt like a more economical way. And I think a lot of people feel that way. That's why a lot of people online date. And it just like, it's just this whole like dynamic. And I just felt like I've never seen like, it's so present day, like that this is what dating has become. Like, imagine being like 80 years ago and you had to like bump into someone and like hope you see them again, like, you know what I mean, because there's no cell phones even. And I just wanted to really have something that was totally of the time and show like the modern disconnect of connection, you know. And it's like really like the entire like the budding romance that could have been was kind of like all blown up off of like a miscommunication, just because like you assume that like there's like certain like someone's doing one thing and you can't ever see it, and it's just all you assume certain games are being played, and it's like, no, it's all such a game with texting. And I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And finally, the season ends with, you know, Gator and Dave have a pretty you know, they've had a pretty interesting season, but they come to blows after being so solid. They're supposed to always be solid, the two of them, but it ends well because they're touring together and they're kind of like equals now as they move forward. Is that what we're going to expect for season 3?
Well, you know, I don't even want to reveal what to expect. We're like right in the beginning of figuring all of it out. So I don't know exactly what footing people are on, and we're talking all of it through right now. But certainly, you know, we kind of had to like to make that last moment with our two, I think, you know, main characters feel like worthy of you had to like kind of make me be the villain for a lot of the season, which is something I wasn't used to. So like you had to like feel that what's the word when everything is release, but it's not the word. Catharsis. To make it all pay off properly, you had to like go through these struggles of like wondering like why is the relationship getting frayed, and which was not necessarily the easiest thing for me because I like being a likable, you know, protagonist, and but it just made it all pay off in the right way. And certainly when you come back to season 3, you will see me and Gata on the right footing as far as like we are back in our friendship, loving each other, and everything's all good.
Thank God.
Yeah.
On that note, Dave, thanks for your time today. We'll bring you back for our group chat.
Of course. Thank you so much.